Hey, look, y'all need to stop saying God bless America, pray for America. America is cursed.
I'm so mad at my country right now. Why did you think that this was the person that was going to make things better in this country? You can't hate into harmony. Why is everybody so scared of equality? Why is everybody so scared of people that look differently than them, and that think differently than them, and that live differently than them? Why in 2025 are people battling just for the right to exist in peace?
You know, with everything going on right now, you'd almost think that like America was cursed or something, you know? Like it's feeling like it was built on like some ancient Indian burial ground or like... Wait a minute.
Americans, listen closely. You've been living under a curse for nearly 50 years, and I bet that most of you don't even realize it. The curse began in 1979 when the Iranian regime first raised their voices with the chilling chant, "Death to America." That curse didn't fade. It wasn't symbolic. They are still chanting it today.
Hi guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. It's so good to have you. Thank you so much for clicking. When you saw this video, so a lot of people came out online. I was talking about how they feel America is cursed just because of some of the things that they've done in the past. You know, with everything that is happening now, to them it looks like, you know, a people that are under a curse. Okay, so a lot of people actually said a lot of things and talking about how Black Americans have, you know, endured so much and the things that they did, okay, in the past, that actually feel that this is the reason, because of what they have done to Black Americans, these are the reasons why, you know, they feel America is cool. Well, I'm going to let the rest of the videos roll, then I'll come back with more commentary. Credit belongs to original creators of this video. Let's go watch.
Not only is America not a Christian nation, but according to this American lawyer and theologian, it's a demonic nation. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Colton. I grew up a Pentecostal pastor's kid, went to school to get degrees in historical Christian theology, and I don't think January 6th is anywhere close to one of the worst things that's happened in American history, but it is a particularly good illustration of what this video is about. We saw an enraged mob of violent Christian nationalists carry American flags and Jesus Save banners into the Capitol during an attempted coup. And in the aftermath, I remember seeing one pastor say that this was a revival, not a riot. I saw another pastor say that the insurrection was comparable to the walls of Jericho falling down. That's how they viewed it. And more than a few Christians defended it as the hand of God moving through patriots. There was this guy named William Stringfellow, who was a civil rights attorney, an activist, and a theologian who lived in Harlem during the 1960s. He wrote this book called An Ethic for Christians and Other Aliens in a Strange Land. Stringfellow used the language from Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 to talk about America being the demonic principality of the power of death. In this passage, someone, purportedly Paul, although that's hotly contested by the scholarship, says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And in context, this is essentially naming the unseen forces that work through empires and institutions and ideologies, not just like metaphors. But Stringfellow actually took this seriously. For him, these powers and principalities are the spiritual and institutional realities that shape human life, and often without our awareness. Stringfellow didn't think that demonic principalities came wearing horns and red capes, but they came dressed in flags and standing in pulpits, using the language of freedom, family, and faith. He saw them as real forces that were spiritual, systemic, and seductive. He saw them operating as governments, corporations, and even churches. Really any institution that takes on life of its own and demands allegiance, resists accountability, and functions to preserve its own survival at the expense of truth. Stringfellow said that these forces aren't always obviously evil, that they pretend to be good because they disguise themselves as righteous and they speak in the name of God while dealing in death. Put simply, he saw America as a principality pretending to be God. For Stringfellow, this is why so many churches have lost the capacity to tell the truth. And this is why Christians defend war as holy or see billionaires as blessed, use law and order language like it's sacred, but then mock mercy. No wonder so many churches have prioritized the idea of personal salvation. It allows you to ignore systemic sin, and you start to see flags treated with more reverence than the cross. Stringfellow believed that when the church endorses or baptizes empire, that what it's doing is worshiping death, because the one thing that the powers always wield is death. Not just physical death, but spiritual death, the death of imagination, the death of empathy. It's kind of funny that we're seeing so much language come up today from American evangelicals talking about toxic empathy. Crazy. Stringfellow says that this is the death that comes when you no longer believe anything can change. And so you give yourself over to the way that things are. And he says that this is how the powers win, not by making you serve them consciously, but by making you believe they're inevitable. And he says that they do this strategically, and he actually outlines 8 strategies that the powers use to sustain their influence and subdue their conscience. For time purposes, I can only cover probably 3. One of these strategies is the denial of truth. He says that the powers lie blatantly and and systemically, that they distort the facts and suppress evidence to amain the illusion of righteousness. And I think you can see this clearly in the way that American institutions dismiss or minimize the climate crisis, even when the scientific consensus is clear, or in a way that somebody might claim an election was stolen with no credible proof, using the lie to justify further authoritarian responses. Or even how they erase the human toll of immigration policies by not acknowledging the deaths or the trauma caused by detentions, deportations, and border enforcement. Another strategy he outlines is what he calls doublespeak and overtalk in the Orwellian sense. And he's not just talking about lying here. Here he's talking about drowning the truth in euphemism and noise. So think about the way that we use terms like enhanced interrogation to mean torture, or collateral damage to mean dead civilians. Pundits and politicians will often flood the discourse with slogans like law and order, things that obscure who's actually making the laws and whose order is being preserved in the first place. And I think that when the language is corrupted, so is the conscience. Then there's surveillance and harassment. Stringfellow says that powers protect themselves by targeting dissent. And you can see this in the way that law enforcement agencies are starting to track protesters with facial recognition, or even as quietly as IRS audits and donor blacklists for faith leaders who challenge Christian nationalism. That's happening. Keep in mind, this was written in the 1970s, the early 70s. He talks about journalists facing threats for exposing state or corporate wrongdoing, and clergy who speak out being dismissed as, just political or divisive or even unpatriotic. The goal here isn't just to punish, it's to intimidate, to discourage anyone else from stepping out of line. And this is why Stringfellow didn't just call the church to critique the state. He was actually calling the church to exercise the state, to name the idols clearly, and to unmask the spiritual lies that are there beneath the political power. Stringfellow was begging the church to refuse to worship at the altars of relevance, respectability, and return on investment. And in a world where even the church can become possessed by the spirit of empire, Stringfellow believed that the only faithful church is the one that looks like Christ, poor, despised, and truth-telling, willing to die rather than to kill.
Americans, listen closely. You've been living under a curse for nearly 50 years, and I bet that most of you don't even realize it. The curse began in 1979 when the Iranian regime first raised their voices with the chilling chant, "Death to America." That curse didn't fade. It wasn't symbolic. They are still chanting it today. If you think this curse is only on the nation, let me tell you, you are wrong, naive, and ignorant. This curse has seeped into every part of our lives, our families, our children, our relationships, our health, our finances, and our peace. Look around. Does anything in life ever just work, or is it one storm after another? In Numbers 22:4-6, the king of Moab begged Balaam to curse the Israelites because he knew the power of words. Whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed. This isn't just the Old Testament, this is a spiritual reality. Believe it or not, whether you love this nation or resent it, if you are here, you are in it. This curse doesn't wait for your permission. And for those living in America while speaking home over it, even hoping for his downfall, understand this, you are not just speaking against a country, you are speaking destruction over yourself, your children, and your future generations. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If you are a follower of Christ, don't underestimate the power of words. Don't live in fear. Jesus gave us authority over every curse and attack. Stand firm in prayer. Jesus is with you. If this stirred something in you, drop a comment and share this with a friend.
I'm so mad at my country right now. Why did you think that this was the person that was going to make things better in this country? You can't hate into harmony. Why is everybody so scared of equality? Why is everybody so scared of people that look differently than them, and that think differently than them, and that live differently than them? Why in 2025 are people battling just for the right to exist in peace without people bothering them or trying to oppress them or hating them or harming them? Why can't we use our money and our resources and our time and our energy to build people up, to build up our neighborhoods, to invest into communities that are struggling? Like, why can't we finally put all of our energy and our resources into positively contributing to society and making the world that we live in a better place? Why can't we just fucking accept each other? Why are people still so susceptible to listening to just hatred, just pure hatefulness, and that being the thing that they're moved by? Why does that move you? Why doesn't love move you? Why doesn't kindness and generosity move you? It's like every single time there's a group of people fighting for their rights in this country, the whole world just explodes in fear and fear-mongering, and it works. And why can't we learn from our history? Why can't we recognize that the same thing seems to happen over and over again? Why are we stuck in a continuous loop of fear and oppression and fear and oppression and having to fight fear and oppression? Why can't people in power, with money, whatever, give it up? Just go live your lives. Pay attention to yourself. Enjoy all of the resources and privilege that you have and be in peace. Why are you so fucking angry? Why are you so controlling? Why are you so in everybody's business? There's absolutely no need You are better equipped than anybody on the planet to go live your life in peace. So why don't you just do that? All of us are going to die someday. Everybody who's trying to hoard and accumulate all of this wealth and this power or whatever, this fake shit, you're not going to get to keep that. You're going to be gone someday, and who knows when that day is. So why are you chasing it to the point that you're willing to harm others to get it and to keep it? What is going on? Release that. Why can't we just take care of each other? Why is that so hard? Why is that so seemingly impossible for this world? Or I'll just speak for the US. Why is that so hard for us? It should be the most natural thing in the world to understand that if my neighbor is doing well, that's a good thing for me. I'm exhausted by every single headline that just goes against everything in my soul that I believe about life. It's just painful. It is painful, and it is depressing and so sad. And I wish that things were different. To anybody watching, I hope you're okay. Sending love to you.
There's a reason that America feels cursed. From its beginning to its present, this so-called Christian nation has been drenched in blood, greed, and spiritual filth. What we're seeing today, the chaos, division, addiction, violence, it isn't random. It's divine consequence. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, corruption has appeared on land and sea because of what the hands of men have earned, so that he may let them taste part of what they have done, that perhaps they will return. Quran chapter 30 verse 41. America wasn't founded on freedom. It was founded on genocide and hypocrisy. Millions of Native Americans exterminated, their land stolen, their children kidnapped into Christian schools, where they were beaten, raped, and stripped of identity. The same people quoting the Bible used it to justify mass murder. Before the US even called itself a nation, it was burning women alive during the Salem witch trials, projecting its own evil onto others. They screamed about witches while committing acts far darker than any spell. They seek to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah will perfect his light. Quran chapter 61 verse 8. What they call purity was actually paranoia, fear, and hatred, the very foundation of their empire. Then came Mormonism, born into the same soil, mixing Christianity with paganism, polygamy, and blood atonement. These were not fringe movements. They shaped US politics and culture, from manifest destiny to God bless America. The nation began to believe it was chosen by God to dominate others. That's not faith, that's arrogance. The Prophet Muhammad warned, arrogance is rejecting the truth and looking down on people. Sahih Muslim 91. And what's more arrogant than a nation claiming God gave it the right to rule the earth, just like Israel is doing right now, and its people, the chosen ones, the very same people running America. Just look at the culture. The United States produces more serial killers than any other country in history. Over 3,000 known cases. Hollywood glorifies cannibals, serial killers, and demonic acts. It celebrates sin as freedom. Even Netflix has turned human depravity into entertainment. This isn't coincidence. This is a mirror, a reflection of the nation's inner sickness. Then the hearts of those who disbelieve became hardened after that, like stones or even harder. Quran chapter 2 verse 74. The same obsession with horror, violence, and death runs through its politics, its movies, and its streets. When a nation normalizes evil, Allah removes mercy from its heart. The American empire didn't stop at home. It expanded, invading, occupying, and toppling over 80 countries, from Vietnam to Iraq, from Iran to Libya. Millions of lives lost in the name of freedom. Their military doesn't defend, it dominates. They maintain over 750 military bases all across the world, controlling oil, currency, and governments through blood, and do not commit abuse on the earth, spreading corruption. Quran chapter 2 verse 60. And yet they call Muslims terrorists. The biggest terror organization on earth wears a suit and waves a flag. Islam forbids everything America profits from: interest, pornography, gambling, intoxication, exploitation, and oppression. So they attack it. They bomb Muslim lands, invade other nations, steal resources, and brainwash their citizens to fear Islam. They demonize hijabs, but glorify nudity. They ridicule prayer, but worship money. They want to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive none except themselves, yet they perceive it not. Quran chapter 2 verse 9. America doesn't hate Islam because it's violent, it hates Islam because it's pure, because it exposes the filth that they live in. Behind the American flag lies another flag, the Zionist one. For decades, Zionist lobby groups like AIPAC have dictated US foreign policy. Presidents come and go, but the alliance to Israel never changes. Billions of dollars are sent yearly while American cities decay, poverty rises, and children die from fentanyl. You see, many of them taking the disbelievers as allies. Evil indeed is that which they have sent ahead for themselves. Quran chapter 5 verse 80. The same elite networks, banks, media, Hollywood, and tech promote degeneracy, destroying faith, and manipulate minds. Their goal, to make humanity forget God so they can play God. Have you noticed America's obsession with monsters, vampires, demons, and the apocalypse? It's not entertainment. It's confession. Its myths mirror its crimes. From witch hunts to cannibals to mass shooters. America creates monsters because it is one. It projects its own darkness onto screens so people never see it in the mirror. And thus we made the oppressors allies of one another because of what they used to earn. Quran chapter 6 verse 129. Just look at America now. Divided, decaying, drowning in drugs, shootings, suicides and debt. Its people no longer know right from wrong. They mutilate children, glorify sin and call it progress. Its youth reject God. Its leaders worship wealth. And its military serves Zionist greed. When we intend to destroy a town, we command its affluent ones, but they definitely disobey therein. So the world comes into effect upon it, and we destroy it with complete destruction. Quran, chapter 17, verse 16. That is what's happening right now. America is being destroyed, not by enemies abroad, but by the rot from within. The United States calls others terrorists, but it has terrorized the planet. It preaches morality while funding genocide. It claims to defend freedom while silencing truth. It builds idols of liberty while worshipping satanic systems. And every empire built on blood ends the same way. Rome, Babylon, Pharaoh, and now Washington. Do not think Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do. He only delays them for a day when eyes will stare in horror. Quran, chapter 14, verse 42. America's downfall is not political, it's spiritual. The curse it unleashed upon others has come home. You cannot mock God, slaughter nations, and poison the earth without consequence. The land cries out, the blood speaks, and justice is coming, whether through history or through divine wrath. And perhaps then the world will see that Islam was never the enemy. It was the truth they feared all along. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you and your families.
When white people see my posts about racism in America, frequently they say, I didn't know. When black people see these comments, they say, we already know. There is no way you didn't know. Don't pretend you didn't. This disconnect is really hard to explain, and I've been trying to understand it myself. I'm going to be digging into this really deep because I think it's so important. It's not that we're just oblivious white people. It's that we've been groomed to be oblivious white people. People point out that it's not like this stuff is locked in some vault somewhere. It's available. You can see it. And that's true. But we were trained not to ask questions. We were trained not to look for it. And I see it in my family. I see it in my circle of friends, even some of my friends that are pretty progressive. We have this ingrained training to not ask too many questions. We were taught to trust authority figures, teachers, ministers, police officers, politicians, the anchor guy on the evening news. We believed them because we were groomed from childhood to believe that they were trustworthy. We were not taught that the system itself, the system they were part of, was designed to protect itself first. And frankly, it felt good just to trust them. It's like you had this permanent mommy and daddy figure. It made life feel safe. The gaps in white knowledge were filled in with lies. We were told that poor people were lazy, that's why they're poor. That crime existed in black neighborhoods because they were black neighborhoods. That broken families cause poverty. These ideas were not questioned. They were treated as common sense. And we were started with our grooming as infants, as little tiny babies, as little bitty kids that are impressionable and just forming our ideas about the world. So that was our social foundation. We were told that black people can't keep their marriages together. I was even told that the reason they couldn't keep their marriages together was because of how they were treated during slavery. So out of one side of their mouth, they'd say, wasn't that horrible that families were split up during slavery? But now that has just become part of who they are. And so it's their fault. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me either. We also were not told that welfare benefits were not available if there was a man in the house, a black woman working 2 jobs who still needed support to raise her children, could not have a husband or partner living in the house with her. And of course we were taught that that was their fault because they couldn't keep their marriages together. As we were growing up and we started to repeat these beliefs, we were seen as respectful and well-adjusted. I don't know, are you getting pissed off? I'm getting pissed off just going through this again. We were guided by the TV news and movies and TV shows to care when white people suffered and to disconnect from the pain of other people. We were taught to feel patriotic about our country without questioning whether they were being truthful with us about why we should feel such patriotism. We asked those white authority figures that we were taught to trust. We were lied to. Now, when black people give us honest answers, we don't fully trust them. It's not about ignorance. It's about conditioning. My education is in behavior analysis, and that's how that works. You just expose someone to a social system that supports a certain line of thinking, and you fall for it, especially if you are started out as a young kid being taught all that stuff. And that's what happens to all of us. We were taught that silence is polite and that truth about society is rude or inappropriate. And as a girl that went to a fundamentalist Christian church, that was even more so. You don't ask questions that are going to make people uncomfortable. But that comfort, you see, it kept us obedient. It kept us from asking too many questions. It kept us from wanting to do anything about it because we didn't fully understand that there was something that needed to be done. We were used to preserve a system that depended on our own silence. It kept us from befriending Black people. It kept us from knowing what the hell we thought we knew about those people. So when white people say, I didn't know about any of this, understand what that really means. We were trained not to look. We were trained to believe the stories that we were told by the authority figures. We were shaped by a system that used your trust against you. We were trained to look away. And now we have a choice. White people, we need to get angry about being kept in the dark all these years so that together with our Black neighbors and neighbors of all races, we can break down this oppressive system that has brought us here to the point of fascism. Check the caption for some documentaries to help you get started learning. We need to really get curious.
So a lot of people actually believe that there is a cause. Some say by Native Americans, some said, by Black people. Some people feel that all of the things that they have done in the past is finally coming back to haunt them. And some feel that there is just a collapse somewhere. Well, let's take a look at some of the comments I've gathered, then we call it a day. So this one said, America is born of slave owners, okay, and is designed to pursue freedom and happiness, not exactly God-serving material. Thus, we worship money, power, and guns, and occasionally pay lip service to God. The truth is in our behavior. Because tell me the reason why, you said you are a Christian, but it's so hard for you to accept poor people, live among immigrants, just so many things have happened in recent time. And most times I just feel like there is actually a collapse somewhere, like every other person say. Because tell me the reason why, as a Christian nation, there are just so many people flaunting at Christians, raising holy hands in churches, but still do not show love to one another. They still play rape to the seas to other people, okay, that live amongst them that are not the same color. They decide to play rape to the seas to them. And I just keep wondering, are we still, the same Christians that we all claim to be, or there is just something else attached? Because now, this is not actually what Christianity is all about. So, Black woman here, and I want to say, will be known. Okay, the word of God says we'll know them by their fruits. We can clearly see that nothing America does or has done lines up with God. Nothing. God is love, okay? Now, if America was a true Christian nation, those who cough are on the Epstein file will be held accountable at 5 times greater justice for crimes against, Yeah. So this one said, rape to the seas is demonic. The fact that anyone dislikes someone because of their skin is antithetical to God. We are all his creations, no matter what, okay? As a Christian Democrat, I don't understand how our Christian sides, we Republican, majority of things, okay, them stand for is what Jesus stood for. I don't believe this country could have ever been blessed from the way that it started, and people fight me on it. But just going with the basic principles of the universe, this place had been cursed from the jump. So someone has said, I'm not religious at all. I don't believe in demonic versus holy powers. This was a good analysis, a lot of good information and food for thought. Even for an atheist, the soul of our country is definitely lost. This one said, that makes sense considering the stature the Statue of Liberty is Lucifer. Like, you can take the painting from the 1800s of Satan and his legion and overput it, and it's the exact same person. There's even a statue of Lucifer with wings, and you can see the same chain around his foot and an apple at his hand. Statue of Liberty has a chain too. Would you be willing? Okay, this is precisely why church and state are supposed to be separate. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. If America was Christian, we would be known for our love, compassion, humility, and service. Because a lot of them just keep claiming to be Christians. You know, Christians are born again and people who are supposed to follow Christ like manner. But somehow, we've seen many times when people get arrested by ICE or anything, how they act towards these people is very, very funny. I'm so shocked most times when I read some of those comments where they say, this is exactly what I voted for. You voted for other people to actually get maltreated, get deported, get separated from families just because they're in your country. Like, I don't even get it. Most times I just wonder, like, do we actually show love to these people? Okay. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay for people to live in other people's country without documentation. Do whatever you have to do to get documented in the country. Whatever legal means it takes to get documented is very good. But yeah, when someone gets separated from their family, some of you just like, yay, that's exactly what we voted for. We want them deported. And tomorrow, you go out there and say you're a Christian. I'm just so shocked. Okay, I've been calling this Empire versus Shalom. I got it from the B1ack podcast. When I read the Bible, I see it everywhere. This is why the internet is amazing. In my own life, I feel like I'm the only one. But thanks to channels like yours, right, that actually expose some of these things. So someone said, honestly, we need to start looking at some of the ethics around the crusades. Okay, now what is funny about this whole movement is the fatwa called on Trump and Nayatum. Okay, Nayahu. Okay, I agree with everything except for the very last one. No, I'm not going to be poor and broke just to fight the battle of justice. Well, guys, I would love to hear your own take as well in the comment section. Let's have that conversation, and please do well to like and subscribe. Credit belongs to original creators of this video. See you all on my next